All righty. Good morning, everybody. Happy new week. Hope you're doing amazing. I'm excited to have one of my very, very fresh, hot off the press published authors right here next to me, Sue Willoughby. As you can see from the title of today's interview, she wrote a book called Retribution or Rehabilitation, which is behind her, Hope for a Life Beyond Maximum Security Prison, which is quite different and unique to some of the other topics that we hear. And Sue is based in regional, central New South Wales. And I'll read her official introduction so you know who she is, and then we can talk about this very interesting topic that we probably don't get a lot of exposure to in our day-to-day, unless you're someone like Sue. So we'll be delving deeper into, this world. All right, so let me give you the official introduction. Sue Willoughby has been able to achieve a lifelong goal of leading a purposeful life by helping people to escape the cycle of incarceration. In her book, Retribution or Rehabilitation, she describes what it's like working inside a maximum security jail daily alongside criminals convicted of extremely violent crimes. She gives the public a glimpse of life inside the prison walls. The jail that she works in, Macquarie Correctional Centre, is in regional New South Wales, and it is applying principles that have been found to be successful in other jails around the world, mainly Scandinavian jails. In Retribution or Rehabilitation, God, that's a mouthful. It's a little bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? There is an interview with a person who has recently been released from maximum security jail. The words are written just as he has said them, and his interview will give the reader insight into a new age of rehabilitation. Welcome, Sue. I am super excited and proud to have you sitting here alongside me. So good morning.
Good morning.
Excellent. So tell me, this is quite a big topic and a unique topic, right?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about how long had you thought about writing a book, and also why this topic, that you're passionate about.
So I suppose I've always led a life that I've wanted to help people, and over different career paths, I've sort of ended up in corrective services where I have been able to help people sort of turn their thinking around and maybe change their lives for the better. And in the back of my mind, really probably all my life, I've wanted to write a book. So then the two things have come together so that when I had an opportunity to write a book, I thought, well, why don't I write about what I do at my work every day? I think that most people will be interested how life goes on inside our jails, and how we have really become a progressive jail, Macquarie Jail. What Corrective Services New South Wales has looked outside themselves and looked basically at world sort of trends and what's been achieved in other jails throughout the world that are really positive, and trying to decrease that rate of inmates returning back to jail. So Corrective Services New South Wales has sort of got some great leaders there and has really started to engage these new principles, because I think most of us realise that the old Albert Einstein saying that if you keep doing the same thing over and over and again and expecting different results, then, well, that's meant to be the definition of insanity. So trying sort of being progressive thinking and trying new ideas that have been successful in other places and then putting them inside our jails has been definitely a wonderful, basically, experiment, because the jail that I work in was really a one and only when it was first set up. Over the last sort of few years, there's been more jails starting to take the same principles on board so that they can apply principles that are going to really set up inmates better for when they're released from jail, giving them different types of skills, so that they also change their thinking, and that a lot of them come into jail and they don't have a lot of hope for their life. They just get caught up in the cycle of returning to jail, so that they come in, it's sort of like in some ways really like hopelessness. So I feel that my job often is to help them have hope for a better future. And by doing that, it helps all of us in society, because if you can help one person get out and not return to jail, then it has like a flow-on effect. So yeah, the two ideas came together, and yeah, that's how I wrote the book.
I love that. And I'm sure a lot of people are curious about a lot of things that happen or how things unfold. You know, what are kind of maybe some of the most common questions that you get asked? And by the way, for anyone watching this live right now, if you do have a question for Sue, post it. I've got my phone as underneath following any comments as we go along. But yeah, I'd be curious, you know, if anyone does have a question, do bring it up. But what is the one thing, like, you know, I guess what I'm curious about is you talk about the criminal mindset, and what are maybe some 2 or 3 things that you guys do to help them, you know, shift that mindset to, like, you know, a non-criminal.
Yeah, to give them that hope for changing that mindset. So there's a few different things, and one of the things that I do is that I facilitate programs that are to address their criminogenic needs, which is to help to change their attitudes about crime, so that then they start to address some of their problems. So that might be problems with aggression, where they sort of need to learn some emotional regulation. Mm-hmm. So that's one area. Obviously, addictions. A lot of incarcerated people have different problems with addictive behaviours. Probably the ultimate one is drug addiction, but there's also other things like gambling and alcohol addiction. So addressing those things is another really important area that we do inside the jail. The other couple of things are giving them education, because a lot of them have come from limited education. So within the jail, there's language and literacy classes to increase their literacy. Some of them might have, you know, quite poor reading and writing skills, but then also progressing on with their education into other things of interest, and things that will help them when they're released from jail. Like there's business courses, there's courses in all sorts of things, gardening, art, but also courses that they can do like traineeships, which ties in with the other thing, is really giving them some work skills. So within the jail, so if they can complete a traineeship and maybe get a certificate 2 or a certificate 3, which is a trade qualification, then they can come out of jail with a cert 3 in welding or carpentry. That's a trade qualification. So they're very, very employable people then. And even with a certificate 2 in those type of things, welding and carpentry, I know that inmates have got jobs just locally. One inmate has now got an apprenticeship with a builder, and he'd been working in our carpentry unit. So that's fantastic. And others have been in we've got 2 metal workshops. There are obviously other industries, and those workshops have given inmates traineeships. TAFE comes in, does the assessing so that they have the actual work skills, you know, like welding and that. And then they have been able to get employment using those skills that they've learned in jail. So they're probably the 3 main areas, which is the work.
Awesome. You've got some questions here. We will share a link, Jody, to purchase the book. That's coming towards the end of the interview. And if Lind is watching this, she can post it a little bit earlier. But Jennifer Maguire is asking, do you believe that every prisoner is capable of being rehabilitated? Or are there some characteristics that are unable to be changed and are too high risk to rejoin society?
That's an interesting question, Jen. Personally, I believe that everybody should be able to lead a purposeful life. And as I said, I like to give them hope. So, yeah, I would say by far the vast majority. There might be a very small percentage of people that maybe never get released from jail or shouldn't. And a lot of them might even have mental health issues. So they might have committed terrible crimes, but it's actually sometimes to do with their mental health. So that by far the majority, 90, 95%, I do believe, can be rehabilitated. They often find a life when they have some education, come to us, as I said, addressing more their criminal mindset, and then getting some work skills that they've never really experienced before. Like they'll often have never had a job and, as I said, had very limited schooling. So by giving them those tools, it also really raises their own self-esteem. So then they start believing themselves. So yeah, I do believe by far the majority. There'd only be a very, very small, tiny, percentage, or only a very few people that I really believe that could be rehabilitated.
And I believe, if you don't believe in them being able to be rehabilitated, which is your role, how are they gonna it just wouldn't happen. If you believe something, you'll be right, and if you don't, you'll also be right.
Yeah.
So you need to step into that, mentoring and coaching role to help them see their purpose, their future, and set some goals and all that sort of stuff. Which is, you're a mentor, counselor, coach to them, and same as me. Like if I don't believe that every single person I work with has everything within them to write a book, then I won't see as high a percentage rate of people finishing and having their books and all that sort of stuff. You have to believe it, the ones that you take care of, because it makes a big difference, I think, when you have, because maybe so many others have lost hope on them, right?
Yes, that's for sure, Nat. And exactly what you just said is that I feel that you've got to have trust and belief that they can do it, and then it gives them that confidence that they can. I've actually had them also say that they don't want to let other people down. It might be their family members, might be us, like if we go, look, we really believe that you can lead a life, not a criminal lifestyle. They start to believe in themselves, because if they doubt themselves, if there's just that slight bit of doubt, which they've had basically all their life, then they probably won't succeed. And just as you said, that's right. You having the belief helps them to also believe that they can turn their life around, really.
Yeah, I love that. How, my curiosity around this is, they've done a bit of training and, they've been released and all that sort of stuff. How difficult is it in society for those people to be then employed? Because don't they, when you go to get employed, you get asked, do you have a criminal record and all that? How do you navigate or advise on approaching that conversation with future employers?
Yes, that's such a big thing, because so many of our inmates within the jail say that they find it really, really hard to get employment because they have a criminal record. Right. And again, that sort of adds to that hopelessness. So finding employers that will give someone a second chance, they've got to have, okay, I'm going to give this person sort of my faith for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is, and trust in them that they'll do the job. And often, again, once they get there and start working, and if they've built those skills up while they're in jail, they're very capable workers and they work hard. Yeah. This one inmate that's in my book, his employer has said, he's the best employee I've ever had. He said, as soon as he got out and started working, he said to our metal shop in the jail, how many more can we have? He said he's a fantastic worker. So he learnt those skills while he was in jail, and now he's able to employ them on the actual work site. So it really is, some employers probably doubt that, and there's a lot of the time they just find getting employment really hard. So a lot of them will end up in sort of private businesses. They'll have a brother-in-law who owns a construction business or a trucking. So often that's the way they'll get a job. But it's a lot on the private employers to give someone else a second chance, really.
Really, I think maybe to give them that mindset of to stay persistent. You know, you need to ask 100 people and you'll get one. You know what I mean? That it's going to give you that second chance, and not just give up at the first 5 that go no, no, no.
Yes.
You know, and there will be others. You know, everyone's a different personality. Yeah. Oh, I get that. So yeah, those are great tips. There's another question here from Susie. What percentage come from abusive childhoods? Is there a special training to help them sort out those issues?
That's another fantastic question, because in the book I write that, like, a lot of them have come from neglectful, abusive sort of backgrounds, been neglected as children, and haven't learned some of the social norms that so many of the rest of us have learned, so they don't know how to act in society. So yes, we have counsellors, psychologists within the jail to help them address a lot of that past trauma. So yeah, not just myself in our roles, like we have, our training isn't to that of a psychologist, but yeah, the psychologists and a lot of trauma informed practices applied within the jail, so that not only even at the high level of psychologists, but even that the custodial officers sort of treat the inmates really with trauma informed practice. So yeah, addressing those issues and helping them move past that is another really big step for them not returning to jail, because sometimes that trauma, then that leads to those addictive behaviours, like I was saying about drug addiction. Yeah. So addressing the cause, not the actual effect, which is the addiction. If you can address that cause, and then there is more basically success.
There'll be a different effect. If you address the cause, there'll be a different effect, right? And
for sure.
Every single one of us has something from our childhood that we've worked on or need to work on that produces certain negative behaviors. You know, it doesn't have to always mean in the sense of you know, a criminal activity, but I believe every human being could do with a bit of childhood reprogramming along the way, and certainly with your guys or ladies. The prison is men and women, is that it?
The actual jail that I work at is an all-male jail, but obviously there are ones, and there's one very close to us that has women as well. But where I work, it's
I was right when saying your guys. But it applies for everybody, and it would be definitely, you see, I believe you would see a lot of childhood trauma, and perhaps observing behavior that's then been repeated in the cycle, you know.
And it's often a light bulb moment for them when they start to realise that they've been trying to suppress all that trauma all their life, and again dealing maybe with either a lot of gambling or doing, you know, drugs to make themselves feel better while hiding that trauma. So once they start to address the actual cause, and they have to go, oh, maybe this is why I keep returning to jail second, third, fourth time. And if I can address that with some help, as I said, sort of through psychology and counselling, then that can often be a big trigger for them to help them turn their life around. They
don't know what they don't know, right?
That's exactly right.
You know, they haven't had access to personal development or some of these conversations that go deep within their subconscious mind and all that sort of stuff. So it's about bringing awareness, self-awareness. So I think
definitely awareness, and even them learning some skills. Like in some of the programs we do some things like mindfulness. So they start to learn how to some skills to de-stress themselves, because often they're in a highly anxious state, and it's like sort of running. I often think of like a little mouse on a treadmill, just running, and they don't know how to stop and settle and start to sort of let those emotions settle. And it's learning new skills, and just what you said, they haven't, you don't know what you don't know, so they've never sort of been too exposed to that. So a part of corrective services is exposing them to new ideas and new skills that they can start to apply.
Like you said, education. Hey, there's another question from Jen. Have you ever seen or run the cost benefit analysis yourself to understand the cost savings involved in rehabilitating a person instead of incarcerating them for a longer term?
Well, personally, Jen, I haven't run those statistics, but I do believe that if we have somebody who keeps returning to jail, that what is that costing the public purse? So if we can rehabilitate them and stop that process, again, so the inmate that has the interview in my book, he writes that he's around about the mid-40s now, and he's been in and out of jail since 20. So for 25 years. So if you think how much that's cost, and then for the last 18 months, he hasn't returned to jail. And again, in the book, he states when we did the interview, which is approximately 12 months ago now, he said that that first 6 months was the longest time he had never gone back to jail. And that was only 6 months out of 25 years. So it doesn't take long to realise that if you can keep someone out for 18 months or 2 years, then having them keep coming back to jail, that's going to be a cost benefit for all society, because it's not, it's obviously a very expensive process to incarcerate people. So, as I said before, just helping one person. So the more you can multiply that, the saving to all societies and financially will be enormous.
Because then they'll also be adding value by working somewhere and supporting themselves and being a taxpayer and all that sort of stuff. So keeping them is definitely a huge.
So they're contributing so they're contributing financially to the community instead of costing the community financially, as well as in other ways. But that's exactly right.
And Jen's just comment, wow, such a massive benefit to rehab them, to society to rehab them. Yeah, absolutely. So what other stuff is this? The kind of stuff you talk about throughout the book? Like, if someone's to buy your book, what are they? Give me a little blurb of what they're going to learn throughout it.
Yeah, well, that's very similar to what I write about. I write about some of the trends in the other successful jails within the world, about what's been happening in Australian jails. And then, different ideas. There's one called Therapeutic Communities. There's a chapter about that, where that's discussing that people need to feel part of a community and that they are contributing to it, and that then the community has say in what they do, so that if they do something wrong, it becomes a whole community sort of approach. And that's sort of within the book. So there's different things and ideas about rehabilitation, and how we're really, it's such an exciting point where we can just keep expanding some of these new strategies that are being applied, like in a jail like mine. So it's very exciting.
I love how you have found your own lane within. I mean, really what you do is personal development and helping someone grow and achieve new goals and move beyond a life of crime and all that sort of stuff. But I love like how you've looked, what have you been doing for your last 10,000 hours plus, and put it in a book. And I know she's writing another book, you guys, and we're chatting about it before we jumped on the call. But more importantly, let's talk about the process. How did you find going through the 48 Author program? Obviously, we're going to be working together on the second book as well. But how was that for you? And, just give me, I guess, your experience.
I always feel that I'm one of the lucky ones, because I attended one of your seminars. And as soon as I attended that seminar, I'm a person who normally am a thinker and procrastinator. And I thought, right, if that little seed inside me that I've had there all my life, I want to write a book. I went to your seminar and thought, right, if I'm going to do this, I'm just going to sign up straight away. And that's exactly what I did. So I went for the full package, because I work full time, so I'm quite time poor. And I wanted people that could do things for me. I didn't want to have to be finding editors and publishers and all that myself. So the 48-hour community, and it is a community and a team, isn't it, that have helped me so much. different people do different jobs, and I couldn't have asked for more. The whole process has been exciting, and the support from your team is just fantastic, because you can email them or send them a message anytime and someone always gets back to you and helps you. So yeah, it's been so supportive from beginning to end. So yeah, fantastic opportunity. I recommend it to anyone. Sign up.
So I've loved working with you as well, because what we haven't shared about Sue is, like, she'd have her list of 7 or 8 questions, and she'd go, let's jump on a call to get she'd come prepared, you guys, and she'd go and we'd answer and go through, and she'd move on and get on with stuff. So that was also a big difference between people who succeed and people who lag or take a little bit longer, is that you were very proactive in the process yourself. You didn't just kind of sit back and, yes, it's a done for you process, but you were also a wonderful person to mentor and take through this. And I know you'll have no trouble in a book 2. So what's book 2 about? Give these guys a little teaser right now.
So book 2 will be a little bit of a continuation of the first book, Retribution or Rehabilitation, but it's sort of delving more into the rehabilitation and then setting up for inmates that are being released from jail, because a really big, thick bridge needs to be created from the inside the jail to outside in community for people, for these incarcerated people to then live in society, you know, get themselves a house, have a job, start to have a normal recreation life. And those skills are something that really needs to be developed, because a lot of times it's either their family or the friends that they've had. They actually have to often totally change their whole group of friends. And if you think about that, if you've had friends 20 or 30 years, or again, even family members that probably haven't been positive mentors in your life, very hard to step up, have the strength and the confidence within yourself to say, right, no, I can't be part of that anymore. I won't see you. I won't take your calls. So in the next book, I'm going to write more. I'm writing more about sort of in the community and once they're released, and setting up a pathway, or as I said, a really strong bridge between custody and community, because that, I think, even in jail, they can feel positive. They're isolated there, so they don't have all those negative peers in their life that they would normally be seeing every day, who've sort of dragged them down. So they can often feel, oh, I can do this, I can do this. But then when they release from jail, if they don't have the support, mentoring and all that basically that they need to help support them like they've had in jail, then that's how often they just start to step back. They got no money, they get out with no employment, they've got no money. All of a sudden those friends start coming around and saying, hey, why don't we do this? I know how to help you get a bit of money. And then they're starting to get back into the criminal behaviours, and before they know it, they're back in custody. So the next book is more about that, being released from jail and setting up all those great things like employment, obviously a really big thing, like that they can have employment, but then house, like so many get out to homelessness and not having somewhere to live. Again, like if they don't address that really quickly, they can be on the slippery slope back to jail. So things like that to help them once they've acquired these skills in jail, to be applying them in the real world and practicing those skills outside in community. So that's really what the second book's more about.
I heard you say custody or community. Could that be the title of book 2?
That's your thinking.
You actually said it, and I said I was waiting for you to finish talking, because that's obviously a nice connection to the first one being retribution or rehabilitation. Then we go custody or community. There you go. We're sorted for book title. It's perfect, because you know you want that the branding of what it all is. That's beautiful. I love it too. So where can people buy this book?
Nat, so I've got my own website, and that's the best place, which is just suewilloughby.com. So it's pretty easy to find it, and Nat's put it up there on the screen. So if you go to my website, suewilloughby.com, you can purchase the book. And I've had a special on that because, as I said, the book's only been printed for a few weeks, and I've had a special on which goes till the 14th of August, which is only a few days away now, where I've had an introductory price of $19.95. So so for the next sort of few days or week.
SueWilloughby.com. Those that are listening to this as an audio, Sue is just SUE, and Willoughby WILLOUGHBY.com. I just wanted to say it because some people do listen to this just purely as audio and they can't see the screen. But it's really easy to remember, isn't it? So go and grab it. The people are already asking for the link. I actually already put the link on the live that's happening on Facebook right now. But Jen's just saying brilliant. Second book title, definitely Custody or Community. And Lenny's reposted the link. So Sue, I really, really admire what you have done and what you're going to continue to do. I can't wait to work on book number 2. I think you're coming to the November program, are you? That's the plan. Nice.
I am planning on coming.
I look forward to having you there and prepping. We're about to move into our August retreat, which is this week, tomorrow. So we're in retreat where we're like everything's getting set up, and it's that time of the year. It only happens 4 times, so I can't wait to be there with you again. Congratulations. I'm so glad there's people like you doing these things to help society, and obviously the people as well, to give them hope and purpose. So have an amazing week. Go and transform some more people. And guys, as always, you guys go and smash it out. Bye.
Thanks, Nat. Bye.